a special guest today that I just picked up from the airport, and he agreed to do this within his 24-hour tight schedule in Nashville.
Oh, so sweet.
One of my best friends for a long time.
Yes. Are you going to cry during this episode?
Do you have any tissues? I don't see any.
I've got a hanky in my back pocket, but it's only one.
Just let him run.
You both can't cry.
Yeah, let him run, man.
Dramatic effect.
You stay over there. So this guy I met 15 years ago. Rachel and I moved to Nashville, and our next door neighbors, the neighbors were like, "Oh yeah, this guy he played in the NFL, and they're really nice, and they've got like a young girl." And so I realized that this neighbor was an ex-NFL player and a gigantic man. And so
he's a big dude, man.
What's funny is our yards. I had a side yard that I would mow in between our houses, and so he'd be walking up and down the street every day
with a baby stroller,
pushing a stroller
yeah.
in Cincinnati Bengals gear, which you can see Bengals gear, like it's orange and black, so it's very standoutish. But I was so intimidated. I was so intimidated by him because I was like, he's probably like super serious. He's probably like got goals,
right? Yeah,
he probably like works out 3 times a day. And so you know how you mow your yard and you make the turn and come back. I was like, all right, on this next turn, he's gonna be at the sidewalk, and I'm gonna have to like run into him. I have to like talk to him. So that next turn, I come over, I stop the mower, and I introduce myself.
Yes.
And that's where it all began.
I'm proud of you.
Yeah. And I knew you were feeling that, and I felt in my soul like I'm going to help him choose courage. So that's why I never said anything, and I was like, okay, I'm going to make him drive down here and get off of that rider.
Yeah.
And you did it. To your credit, you did it.
How long was this after you had moved in? Like how long are we talking?
Maybe a month that we were
it
trying
was.
to figure
it was about 3 to 4 weeks. Everybody else in the neighborhood on day one.
No way.
Came over, brought us meals.
No way.
How can we help? Except for the Cruzes. But.
So okay, hold on. So you guys were already in the house.
Yes.
You moved next door to him.
That's right.
Okay.
So they were there first.
Got it.
Within days, though.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I mean, we had moved in, and it was just a few days after.
Yeah.
When you guys were starting to kind of pull your cars in and stuff, so it was pretty close.
Providence.
Yeah.
All right, we got to tell people who this is. So this is Ben Utecht, my friend, first and foremost, father of 4 daughters, husband to Karin, Super Bowl champion, an author, a speaker, an entrepreneur.
You can tell he's proud of you.
What else? He's a singer.
What?
Yeah, I had a record deal in Nashville. That's why we moved down here.
You can find him.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
You moved here because of music.
Yeah, was nominated for a Dove Award in Christian music, and
he's classically trained.
Was classically trained. Didn't sing classical, but
this big scary man with Cincinnati Bengals shorts.
Yep.
So anyways, that's the intro. I didn't know how do you put all the titles around.
You did a good job, man. It was great.
I'm curious about this right off the jump. Like, how quickly did you feel like a brotherhood friendship type connection?
So we came out of that mowing situation with a plan, and the plan was we definitely need to get together, go break some bread.
Yeah.
And so we did. We ended up going to P.F. Chang's.
Yeah, P.F. Chang's.
We went to P.F. Chang's.
We had a mandate.
That was the hot spot 15 years ago.
We had an incredible waitress. She was 99 years old.
Okay, started out just mandate. Didn't bring the wives yet.
No.
Okay.
No, yeah.
All right.
And it was interesting, it's like with some people, you have this feeling like I can go deep.
Yeah.
And it was probably within 30 to 40 minutes of, getting through the light stuff, that just some themes and some topics just about being men and the time of life that we were both in, and all of a sudden it just went boom.
Yeah, I realized Ben could go there. I was like, oh.
And and that's
I'm gonna go there.
That's a part. I grew up my dad's a pastor. I grew up in a family that did a lot of emotional communicating, so that's always been comfortable for me. And when we started just kind of getting into some stuff, and it was like, wow, okay, this is this is going to be a serious friendship.
Man. Yeah, I asked because I can count on one hand, I think, there are certain men in my life today that within 5 minutes of meeting them, we're each like, okay, we're going to be good friends.
Yeah.
And 10, 12, 15, however many years later, that has held true. And so it's interesting, like sometimes there is that spark instantly that you're like, I know I'm going to be friends with this guy.
100%.
Yeah.
And it's, I talk about it a lot in organizational culture, just the importance of vulnerability, right? As a speaker, I always say, vulnerability equals connectivity. And it's tough with men though, right? I mean, it's hard. Yeah. I mean, you just say the word and you can just feel the tension because it means to open yourself up to being emotionally wounded, right? So you have to have a level of trust and a speed of trust in order to have those types of conversations. Yeah. But we need to, right? Yeah. We do. We need to as men.
Yeah.
And so I thought it was just an awesome dinner. And
yeah, we still look back on that and be like, you think about next door neighbors, you go through tons of them in your lifetime, and we still look back on that and think there's no other explanation except like God's providence and just
100%.
putting that together. So
yeah,
I'm glad I got off the mower.
I mean, look,
you had guts,
for them to jump on a plane and come to Minnesota in the dead of winter. That tells you something.
No man's
kept
land.
It going.
Like there's some love there.
So I'm sure it's not a surprise to people listening that you're not from the South, even though you're on the Southern Gentleman podcast. You did live here for a good amount of time.
That's what qualifies Ben for.
Yeah, you were qualified. Yeah. I'll grandfather you in.
Is Indiana and Ohio? No,
that's still, man.
Okay,
no. That's way
so
up there.
So that doesn't even count. What about the fact that a bunch of my teammates were? No. Okay. So
I mean, it's just because you live next door to me.
So Nashville, though.
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah, so 3
you're
years.
In, bro. You're
two of my daughters were born in Franklin, so
that's big.
it. That's
there you go.
A Tennessee birth certificate.
Yeah, there it is.
That's like birthright citizenship.
Yes,
yeah, you're absolutely you're part of it.
It's communicable. So, tell us where you grew up. Tell us about your childhood. What it was like. How did it kind of shape you today?
Well, a lot of great things about growing up in Minnesota. I grew up in the Methodist church. My dad was a pastor for 50 years. And in that church, it was traditional to move around about every 5 to 7 years. The denomination would place you in a new church. So we did move around a few times. I was born in Rochester, which is the home of the Mayo Clinic, the top health care network in the world. And so it was a very strong community. Minnesota, culturally is Norwegian heritage and German, right? Strong Lutheran and Catholic presence in Minnesota. Moved around to a couple other small towns and then landed in Hastings, which is right on the Mississippi.
On the Mississippi?
Right literally on the Mississippi
I didn't
River.
know I thought the St. Croix was up there.
The St. Croix comes out of the south tip of Lake Superior, and then Mississippi originates, up in northwest Minnesota. And
wow.
So it kind of
are connected, man.
Yeah, it comes down.
I didn't know that.
He basically
this is the first time I've learned
grew up on the Mississippi.
The Mississippi River, the origins are up in Minnesota.
Yeah,
I didn't know it ran that far.
Northwest Minnesota. And so, the state is beautiful, especially as you get up towards Canada, into the national forests and just untouched nature. It's really a cool state. We do have significant O's and A's in our language, so you're going to probably hear that. Oh yeah, don't you know?
Oh, okay.
So we'll just get that out right away.
What did you spend your days doing as a kid?
I grew up in a really unique family situation because sports was significant, but so was the arts. And so my dad was a vocal music major and an instrumental minor before he went into the seminary.
I didn't think I knew
My
that.
mom was a singer. And so we kind of grew up in this unique home environment that celebrated both athletics and the arts. And so that's why I was drawn into those passions, and it made for an interesting, it made for an interesting life growing up. I was in 3 sports in high school, and 5 choirs and band.
Golly.
No way.
Did the musicals and You remember the TV show Glee?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was like my life. Like I was the Glee guy.
Right.
Were you playing like you're playing football in high school? Are you halftime? You're going hopping in the band and like are you doing that?
No.
'Cause I know some people have done that.
There's a funny NFL story about that actually. But I was in band just to the beginning of high school. Stayed in choir throughout, and so it was kind of just that seasonal exchange of having to try to figure out how to do multiple things.
Yeah.
But really cool, at the same time, to play on the field and then go and do the talent show in front of the whole school and
right. So how did you start making decisions about college and what you wanted to do? Like art almost was it art like the hobby, but you knew that sports was a way to make a living?
Yeah. I mean, I never thought really much would happen with music early on. I was 16 years old, and growing up at that time in sports, there was no well, first of all, the internet just came into existence, right?
Yeah.
So you didn't have any of the online recruiting platforms.
Yeah,
that you
hype
do today.
tapes and stuff like that, social media. Yeah.
So we, in my high school, which was a really strong, had a really strong athletic program, we ran what was called the option offense. So the quarterback is doing a lot of handoffs, fake handoffs. It was a 90% running system.
That's how I would play Techno Bowl.
Right?
Yeah,
Exactly.
absolutely.
100%.
Do the sweep.
With Bo Jackson.
Especially with Bo Jackson. And so the only way that and I was a wide receiver, and the only way that we were going to get any, interest was VHS tapes.
Yeah.
So my dad and my uncle, they made like 40 or 50 VHS tapes with the highlights, which were basically every catch that I made. I only caught the ball like 10 to 15 times because we ran.
Yeah.
But they were all highlights.
Right.
And so sent those out. Got a bunch of camp invites. The first was University of Minnesota, my home state, and I just went up the summer after my junior year, still 16 years old, and went into camp and just balled out, and just ran a 4.40, just catching, jumping over people, and at the end of the camp, they asked my dad and I to come into the head coach's office, and he offered me a full ride.
Right there, your junior year.
Right after my junior year, 16 years old, 2 weeks before my 17th birthday, I shook his hand, and that was it.
Does your family have big University of Minnesota like history roots there, or
my dad spent some time at the University of Minnesota, and some other family members. My wife, who I met through Fellowship of Christian Athletes at the University of Minnesota, both her dad and uncle were hockey players there, so a lot of family connections.
Okay, but you could have gone wherever, but you just knew that felt right in your hometown.
I knew it felt right, and to be honest with you, just because, like I said, because of the recruiting system, and there were rankings at the time, and you've got the top receivers based upon numbers in the state that are catching 80 footballs, a season, and I'm catching 15. So there was something in my soul that was like, this is totally God, and this is like the one shot that you're going to get.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just took it.
Okay. That's amazing. What was what do you all say? Ski-U-Ma?
Ski-U-Ma.
Ski-U-Ma.
What is that?
Ski-U-Ma.
It's like their Rocky Top.
It's one of our stadium chants.
It's a battle cry.
What does it mean?
Well, supposedly it came out of, the story goes that because of the Native American heritage in Minnesota, some of the settlers had overheard these cheers or chants by Native American tribes that were playing games themselves, and that they heard this Ski-U-Ma or Sky-U-Ma chant. But then you talk to the natives, and it doesn't really mean anything.
Yeah.
So, I've been to a Gophers game with you.
Yeah.
And I have a lightning round question that we're gonna come back to.
Let's do it. Yeah.
But we're gonna come back to it.
Okay.
No, let's not come back to it.
Oh, you're gonna come right in.
What's a better tailgate? A Gophers game or the SEC?
Or the SEC? Definitely south.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, dude.
I mean,
I had to, I'm planting seeds.
I know, but
I'm gonna get them back down here.
Yeah,
get him back down here.
South has such a stronger bus culture or RV culture.
Oh yeah,
Okay,
You know what I
we
mean?
like our RVs. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
We're gonna watch
It's like when I've gone to a couple of games in the South, it's like you can't find a spot. I mean, it is.
We're gonna watch
a
it out in the
massive
parking
RV
lot.
after a massive RV.
Yeah.
Minnesota is just kind of a little slow on the uptake there. Now,
Right.
to be fair, I mean the campus is huge. It's 50,000 students.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
and
really cool.
They pack the place out and we have a lot of fun. But I'd say
probably the weather down here too is a little bit friendlier for tailgating. I
Man,
would
it's
think
rough up
during
there.
football season.
I mean, it was rainy the day that I went, but
I would say I would say through the middle of October you're
good.
amazing weather.
Yeah.
But then you hit that back
Yeah.
end and it gets
So
frigid.
you're in college. You're thinking, when did it occur to you that you could like make a living playing football, and how did that all transpire? How did Karin enter the picture
Yeah.
at that point? Your wife,
Yeah, well, I met Karin really early on at an FCA event, and my dad told us at the wedding. I'd called him after this event, and I said, Dad, I just met the woman I'm gonna marry, and then it took me a couple years to wise up because I was still
to act on that.
Yeah, I was. I got swept up in kind of being one of the big men on campus.
Yeah.
And it took a couple years in my walk with the Lord to really bring the level of humility and surrender that was necessary to have a meaningful relationship. And I'm so glad that it worked out the way that it did from that perspective. And same with sports. It just kind of, I came in as a wide receiver, and at the end of the first year, I'd put on about 15, 20 pounds. And so during the spring game, they said, this next play, we want you to slide over into the tight end position. Just put your hand on the ground. And when the ball is snapped, just run as fast as you can down the middle of the field.
Uh-huh.
And so ball was snapped, and I just took off. And I just outran the linebacker and the safety, and they threw the ball, touchdown.
Yeah.
And that was it.
He thought
they made the move.
This is where
right
I
there.
could be.
Yeah, and so that was the first time that I had ever put my hand in the ground on the offense, and
No way.
then I realized that next training camp what it felt like to get hit in the face by a defensive lineman.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's your wake up call. That's like, can you really handle this? But that changed everything. That trajectory put me on the map. And so sophomore year, we're playing Wisconsin in one of the biggest, oldest rivalries in college football. I just had the biggest game of my life. I had a 75-yard touchdown, outran everybody, and then had a 45-yard one-hander in the end zone. And my head coach after the game on national television was like, "We've got the best tight end in the country."
Yeah.
Wow.
And all of a sudden, the light switch turned on.
Like phone calls and
Agents and
Okay.
I just started. Everything kind of became. Everything became a new reality.
Yeah.
Was there something inside you after that particular game that having the success on the field, but then also having your head coach, sorry,
yeah.
your mic, come up and, or say that nationally, that flipped the switch inside you, like, I can be one of the best tight ends in the country?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Now, I've always been a confident person and very competitive. So I knew and believed that, that I could do great things, but to have that affirmation, was significant.
Yeah.
And I think I was awarded like all Big Ten honorable mention after my sophomore year, which is, to get that so early, especially in that position was a big honor. And then the next 2 years, were just incredible opportunities.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's no NIL. There's no
Yeah.
Oh, I wish. 'Cause
Oh,
they-
I'd
they
love
were-
to get
they
his
were-
take on that.
Mine were
Yeah.
one of the jerseys that they were selling,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I missed out.
But you were all locked up.
Man.
And then you were drafted first to the Colts. Is that where you went first?
I actually didn't get drafted. It's kind of one of my miracle stories that I talk about in the book is, I had gone through a number of injuries, and this kind of ties into my faith journey, and the humility and the surrender that brought me back to who I really was as a man of God. Coming through these injuries, both my junior and senior year, I was preseason All-American. I was up for the Mackey Award, which is the nation's top tight end award. And I had these injuries that took me out of the running of that. And so my senior year was pretty bad. We were playing Wisconsin again. And the same route that I scored that first touchdown on was called. And I planted and turned for the ball and felt popping and heard popping all across my lower abdomen.
Oh, man.
And so I ended up tearing the abs from the bone.
What?
Yeah, and crumbled to the turf.
I've heard of a hernia, but I've never heard of tearing it from the bone.
Yeah, it went from
That
being
sounds awful.
a sports hernia to an actual muscle tear. And that was it, guys. That was the end of it. I went from being a potential first rounder to not getting drafted because I was deemed too much of a health risk by all the NFL teams when I went to the combine.
Okay.
And so
I didn't know that.
Driving up to my agent's office, Minnesota rainy day, embarrassed, I think everything's over. I put all my eggs in the football basket. I mean, I had my degree, but I thought it was done. And 2 months before the draft, I get to speak at a big alumni event on campus in front of about 700 people. And I get to open for Tony Dungy, who was a former Gopher, now the head coach of the Indianapolis Colts. And so I get up in front of all these people and I say, hey, Coach, if you really care about the Gophers, if you really care about this university, you're going to draft me in the upcoming draft. And everybody got a kick out of it. And he was gracious enough to respond. He said, Ben, we'd love to have you. We drafted Dallas Clark in the first round last year, so we're not really going to be looking for tight ends. Mm-hmm. Then he stepped back from the podium, put his hand on his chin, as if God was downloading something.
Interesting.
Came back to the podium and he said, I'm going to make a promise to you in front of all these people. If for some reason you don't get drafted, if for some reason you slip through the cracks, I promise I'll be the first person to call.
No way.
And everybody clapped, kind of went in one ear, not the other, right? Because at that point, there were still a lot of teams interested, and I didn't realize that I was going to be red flagged due to injury. But fast forward 2 months, we go into my agent's office, sit down at the table. All that's left is the free agent market, the leftovers, guys that.
So this is right after the draft.
This is right after the draft. All that's left are the guys that usually just get brought in to give the veterans a break, right? It's so hard to make a team as a non-drafted player. And about 5 seconds after the free agent market opens, the phone in the middle of my agent's desk rings, and I pick it up. And who do you think it was?
Coach Dungy.
Tony.
What a guy. What a guy.
Tony Dungy.
That is unbelievable.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just Tony Dungy. It was our Hall of Fame general manager, Bill Polian. And so head coaches and general managers are not calling free agents.
Yeah.
And so the fact that they both called, and what they were saying was, Ben, we didn't think this was going to happen. We know how talented you are when you're healthy. We've actually dealt with this injury before. So here's what we want to do. We want to send you to the top surgeon in the country so that you can heal and get better. We don't even want you to play the first year. Just recover. And we'll pay you as though you're a playing rookie.
No kidding.
Which was about $250 grand.
Yeah.
To sit and rest.
For us to help you heal.
That's
get you.
And we'll give you a $20,000 signing bonus just to put a little skin in the game so you know that we're
serious.
We're serious about
no
this.
No way, man.
And I mean, this is the NFL. Like, what have you done for me lately? Nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, the miracle in that is the next year, Dallas Clark unfortunately goes down with a concussion, last preseason game. So I have to start Sunday night kickoff, national television, against Ray Lewis and the Baltimore Ravens.
Oh, man.
No way.
I was sick to my stomach.
Back in their heyday, too.
In their heyday, and it was.
This is after a year of recovery.
Yes.
Okay.
But you're healthy at this point.
I'm healthy.
Yep.
This is my first NFL game.
And you're in Indiana. You've moved.
Married and moved. Whole family. Yeah, married, moved, living in Indiana, and Ray Lewis comes out of the tunnel.
Good.
And I almost myself.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like I was so
water butt.
Oh my! Because it's one thing to watch Ray on television. It's another thing to see him come out and then go, oh my gosh, I got to block that guy for.
Yeah.
And so the third quarter rolls around, and I release on a seam route down the middle of the field. The defensive safety botches the coverage, leaves me wide open. Peyton sees it, throws, hits me back shoulder. Safety recovers. I barrel through the safety, touchdown.
Wow.
As I'm getting off the safety, it's Deion Sanders.
Oh, no way.
So my very first
Did
NFL.
you give him like a dirty bird type thing? No.
I kind of stepped on his face mask and
yanked his chain.
Yeah, exactly. But no, I balled out. I had a great game. Got the game ball. That game, scored a touchdown, caught a pass from a Hall of Fame quarterback.
Oh my gosh!
Ran through arguably the greatest defensive player in history.
So
cool. And I remained a starting tight end on that team for the next few years and won a Super Bowl in 2006. And none of it happens without Tony Dungy. None of it happens.
Yeah.
And so much of this book and what I do now in building championship culture comes out of his philosophies, his non-negotiable beliefs, and how they're practiced. But because one man practiced a chosen belief system that believed if you build better men, you get better football players.
Yeah.
It's the only reason that happened.
Yeah.
To me.
Is that what happened in 2006 for that team? What led that team to become great?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the team was more like a family.
Yeah.
And you saw this impact because remember, he went to Tampa first. And the year after he was let go by the Bucs, Gruden came in and they won a world championship on the shoulders of the culture that Tony Dungy created there.
Okay.
Right? And so the same seeds had been planted and were at work in that organization that he brought into Indianapolis.
Yeah.
And this idea that, our job is to win. But equally, if not more importantly, our job is to build a family. And the acronym for family in football is forget about me, I love you.
Huh.
So if we can get 53 of the most egotistical, powerful men on the planet
Yeah.
to have faith in one another, to trust and to hope in each other. It was such a powerful culture to be a part of because of this, this idea of, what does practicing selflessness look like? Forget about me, I love you. If you can get, 53 of these guys to understand that when they come together in selflessness and improve themselves, how does that affect their performance?
Yeah. So did you what do you do in the NFL? Do you hang out on Friday night? Do they become your friends or you?
Yeah,
what did your
100%.
relationships look like then?
Yeah, I mean, a band of brotherhood. I mean, obviously the military and the armed forces, they give us the best glimpse at what that actually looks like, right? But in sports, you get kind of a hybrid of that where, you're putting your body through such intensity, and you're doing it together, right? So you're suffering in a way because it's really uncomfortable, it's really hard, and it's really destructive on your body, and you're going through that with another group of men, right?
Yeah.
And so, yes, you kind of create these bonds, these friendships. Obviously, you spend a lot of time together in season, and do a lot of things within the friendship group and the family groups that you connect with, and those become lifelong friendships.
Yeah, that's cool. What else? What? You look back on your career in the NFL, and I want to talk about, the brain injury stuff as well soon. Mm-hmm. But what do you still think about the things that you learned then? Are you applying things that you went through then, like as a dad or just in business or anything? what have you taken away with you since then?
Man, so much. It's one of the things I love about sports is just the life lesson application that you get on so many different levels. My degree was public speaking. Really fell in love with the transformational power of words, watching my dad every week build a message to positively impact people. And I knew I wanted to be a communicator. I just didn't know what my story was. And it was that time in Indianapolis with Dungy that answered that question. And I had to tell this story. I had to tell the world that culture doesn't have to be subjective, that culture can be an objective force built on a practiced and shared belief system.
Yeah.
And that it was about understanding that culture was a product, and when you identify the value principles that you espouse to, that they come out of this foundational power of belief. What do you believe about integrity? Why do you believe integrity matters? And most importantly, how are you actually going to practice and apply integrity in what you do? And all of that was happening in an NFL locker room and on an NFL field. And so I thought, man, I need to bring this into business. I need to bring this into the family. And that's why the book's called The Champion's Creed. A creed is a set of beliefs that guide the behaviors and actions of people. Mm-hmm. And that's the whole point is, we have to do a better job of actually practicing what we believe in order for the value principles to mean something and to actually have an effect on people. So absolutely, work ethic, leadership, vulnerability, endurance, perseverance, courage, all of these are beliefs and principles that have come out of sports.
Yeah. It's very cool. So you've been open about how your NFL career ended and all the things that launched you into with advocacy around brain health.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened with the Bengals? And tell us, when was kind of the first time that you thought something might be wrong?
Well, it was the dawn of the concussion crisis, right? Will Smith had just come out with his new movie Concussion, the story of the famous Dr. Bennett Omalu, who was the doctor that brought CTE to the surface and made it more public, right? Chronic traumatic encephalopathy, which is a degenerative brain disease. And I had got my first diagnosed concussion in college and then experienced, some more in Indianapolis.
Okay.
And then found ourselves in Cincinnati, and I took a shot under the chin in training camp, and that was really the end of my career. And
and who's how do you know? Like, who says that, and what?
Well, most of my
concussions
knocked me unconscious, so it was pretty obvious. Like, this is a concussion. Believe it or not, the concussion that really started to create questions was my last concussion in Indianapolis. We were playing the Denver Broncos, and I had ended up on the turf trying to, cut block a defender, and one of the defensive linemen had jumped over me, and his cleat had clipped the back of my helmet.
Okay.
And you see my head kind of bob down, and then my body just goes limp. And after about 10 seconds, I had kind of regained consciousness and composure, and I get up and I'm high-fiving teammates, and I'm sprinting off the field and high-fiving coaches, and so all my cognitive faculties are working,
mm-hmm.
And I don't remember any of it.
No way.
Yeah, I can only tell you that story because I went in early the next day and watched the film, and that was I was diagnosed with amnesia after that concussion. That was the first time that diagnosis had ever happened, and so that whole day is just gone, and so which is hard to help people understand because it's not an orthopedic injury. It's like you see someone limping and you're like, okay, something happened there. This is hidden.
All internal. Yeah.
It's all internal.
Yeah.
but that was, and the weeks of rehabilitation to get back on the field were really interesting because, had become very forgetful, post-it note person, writing everything down and, finding myself in rooms where Karen would come in and I don't, she's like, you've just been standing in here for 20 minutes. What are you doing? And I don't know why I was in there, just weird stuff like that. And that was probably the concussion where we were like, okay, something's a little different here.
Yeah.
And so when the concussion happened in Cincinnati, it was compounding. The consequences were compounding, and with all of the new information that was flooding the marketplace surrounding the long-term effects of traumatic brain injury, I think the writing was really on the wall, and it was time to walk away.
What was it about the training camp that you were like, this is the end for me? This is it?
Well, it was a scary experience. I ended up getting put on IR, and so I had quite a lot of time, to not only rehab to see if I would go back and play, but then to make the decision of whether I would play or not.
How many years in the league at this point?
This was going into year 7.
Okay.
And so in that process, one of the things that I think really, sealed the decision was my dad basically saying, if you go back to play, I'm never going to watch you again.
No way.
And
I can't watch my son do this anymore. Wow.
Yeah. And so that was kind of a moment where I was like, okay, I'm feeling the financial pressure. It's like, well, I missed out on half of that contract in Cincinnati, which was my big opportunity to be a star, and so I'm just kind of feeling this pressure. But hearing him say that, I think kind of in combination with my faith and where I believe that my identity is in much more than just an athlete.
Yeah.
Kind of the combination of that created the wisdom for me to be able to say, okay, it's time.
Yeah. That's crazy.
How scary was that for your wife?
There were some situations that were light bulb moments for her. We had one situation when we were visiting back in Minnesota during that time where I'd gone over to a former teammate's house and a close friend, and we were sitting at the dinner table catching up, and we started talking about weddings, and I just kind of interrupted the conversation and said, to my former teammate Matt, I said, why wasn't I invited to your wedding? And it just got really quiet. He's like, yeah. What do you mean? What? Come on. And I said, no, seriously. Like, you said it was in April. Like, I wasn't in training, so why wasn't I invited? And his wife got up and went to their photo album, brought it over to the table, and page after page, there I was as a groomsman. I sang in his wedding, and I have any memory of that. I don't have any memory of it today. So that was a moment where I do remember we sat out in the car in the driveway, for an extended period of time, just kind of quiet.
Yeah. Going,
okay, that was strange.
It's like what you said, you could actually see the limp.
Yeah.
But it's hard to see.
Yeah.
Yeah, so good point. Like she's now getting to see some of the consequences. And so, credit to Karen. She's a very strong woman and very high endurance, resilient. And so she was such a great support system through that process. But it was tough.
What should we know about like concussions and brain health in the culture that we find ourselves today?
Wow, it's a big question.
Cultures. It's sports, and there's no greater idol in the Southeast right now than like let's run the track, let's get our kids in this, let's pay for that, let's get that trainer.
Yeah. So that was one of my constant questions, Winston, was because when I got asked to be the national spokesperson for the American Academy of Neurology, which is the largest association of neurologists in the world, I thought deeply about that because I understood the commitment of sports culture.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to be like some athletes who were kind of choosing to be on the fringe in one direction or the other.
Yeah.
Right? I wanted to find a way to inspire and educate and celebrate both sides.
Yeah.
So I chose a pro-brain, pro-game message.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
It wasn't anti-sports, but yet it was anti-brain injury. And so, the whole goal was, okay, how do we inspire especially parents to become more educated and more aware of who they need to be talking to if their child faces a traumatic brain injury or a concussion.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of the balance, and I think we've come a long way in the NFL. The return to play protocols have been significantly enhanced. You've got non-biased neuro specialists on the sidelines that can stop the game at any time they suspect a concussion. So they take it out of the hands of coaches. Yeah. Right. So they've done a lot of really great things. The NFL Players Association stepped up in a huge way. Yeah. To provide that, and then that educational awareness is so critical as an advocate, because if I can go and talk to parents and say, look, sports can do amazing things for your children, just know a neurologist.
Yeah.
Just know a neurologist.
Have one in
the bag, so that you at any time face a situation like this, you can go get a proper screening from a diagnostic brain expert. Yeah. That alone will.
We've talked about this before. What age is kind of your minimum before they put pads on? There's a lot of flag. There's a lot of flag football.
This is probably where
flag football.
Flag. This will probably be where there's the most tension, and it obviously is. It has to come out of the wisdom of the parents, And I coached for a couple of years when I was here at Brentwood Academy. Yeah. With the younger kids, and what I learned being in the world of neurology was, most pediatric neurologists will tell you that the most important developmental stages of a child's brain happen up until 12 years old. This is when the brain is forming and creating neural pathways for language,
motor skills,
but in unique ways that it changes. That's why they always say it's easier for a child to learn multiple languages.
Oh yeah.
Because up until 12, every language you learn goes into the part of the brain where your primary language is stored. So when you learn new languages as a child, you're learning it in the same location that you learn your main language.
Or music or anything that's kind of language based.
Yeah. So I would always say, look, if I give you just my own opinion as a father, if I had sons, I would keep them out of contact football until 12 years old.
Okay.
I would do whatever I can to help them on strength and agility and endurance, education of the game, get them into flag football. But when it comes to, the contact side of the sport, I'm going to hold off until after the most important developmental stages of their brain.
I want to talk to you about your books. You wrote "Counting the Days While My Mind Slips Away," and then this book, "The Champion's Creed," that just hit the shelves. What inspired you? I mean, to write a book and go back through all of those experiences, and to integrate your daughters and your family into it, sounds painful. But like, what inspired you to do that?
I would say therapeutic, right? And I'm sure you hear that from songwriters and from authors all the time. I was inspired to write by being pursued, by people in the industry to tell the story. The biography and concussion story came out of, that placement as the national spokesperson, and a literary agent reaching out to me saying, "Have you ever thought about telling your story?" And so, if you remember, Winston, at the time, I had just produced the song "You Will Always Be My Girls."
Yeah.
And the music video.
Yeah.
And
God,
that happened.
That'll make you grab a box of Kleenex.
Yeah, it's a powerful music video.
Jeez.
But that happened on a Delta flight home, where I just wrote a letter, like a love letter to my wife and daughters, out of my greatest fears.
Yeah.
Okay, my greatest fears being, man, maybe I will be diagnosed with CTE in the future, and maybe I will lose, the memory of the people that I love the most. And so let me write this letter. And then that turned into the song.
Jeez. I have chill bumps, but I'm not sure if I'm comfortable with them.
and so a part of that was writing the book and just telling that story. My one regret is, they wanted to use the first line from the song as the title. I'm in here counting the days while my mind is slipping away.
Yeah.
And I feel like the sports community was in such conflict because they love their sports. Do you know what I mean? So It's like, do we want to really, even though the book is not an ominous book, the book is actually very inspirational and hope-filled. And it ends, with this incredible recovery that I've had, doing my cognitive training and feeling stronger today, cognitively than when I was playing. But then the NFL Players Association asked me to testify at a congressional hearing. So I go to Washington, D.C.
I remember that.
And I had not released the music video because I felt like God was saying it's not the time. And so the NFL Players Association puts me in front of Congress, and I tell the story of writing this letter, and that I had turned it into a music video. And when I walked out the doors, it was like, boom, just media. And then I got paraded around D.C. on all the different channels telling that story, and then we released the music video. And within a few days, it had gone viral.
Wow. That's incredible.
Yeah, and
I'm glad you told the story.
Yeah, no, I mean,
right. I mean,
and that's and the same with the Champions Creed. I have been speaking for 13 years on organizational culture. I've been a chief culture officer at a large private equity company in Minnesota for the last few years. So my credibility went from being an inspirationalist to an operationalist.
Yeah.
And actually know how to go into any size organization and really help them with their culture.
Yeah.
And John Gordon, I don't know if you know that name, 17-time best-selling leadership author at my publisher, Wiley Publishing, was the one who heard me speak and said, you need to write your keynote. You need to tell this story. And that's when that process began.
Okay. I noticed Coach Dungy did the preface.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
He has always been there for his players.
Yeah.
And because so many of the sports stories in the book come out of what he developed, I reached out and just asked him, told him what I was doing, and just said, would you be willing to, to write the foreword for this book? And he agreed. And then the endorsements started coming in, and John Maxwell endorsed, John Gordon, a global trust expert, David Horsager. I mean, so there's just, all these incredible people that are leaders around the world saying, man, this is something special.
So who's it written to? I know it's primarily, you think business culture first.
Yeah.
But you say you can apply it to anything.
It is written to it's written to executive leadership teams in any size organization, and it's written to business owners in any organization. The application of it is also for life.
So a dad could use it.
100%. There will be future versions of the champion's marriage and the champion's family.
Yeah.
Because it all comes out of the same foundation.
Yeah.
Which is the power of belief and turning belief into a system that you can practice.
Yeah. Well, it's going well. I'm excited for you.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, it's very cool. Let's do some lightning.
I love it.
We ready for some lightning?
And Winston handled this all by himself. I'm so proud of you.
Oh, man.
You asked
I'm so
one
proud
question.
of you.
You asked one question, and it was good. I liked it.
Me,
It was very early on.
He's over here choked up.
I've got two things.
Do you have anything you want to ask him? Bonus question.
Yeah, let's go.
I'm curious if you have a take on, like, I played sports growing up, but mostly baseball. So not a lot of brain injuries that go on traditionally in that sport.
Sure.
But I watch football. I'm somewhat knowledgeable about what's happened with CTE and concussions over the last few years. I also listen to Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
And I'll hear people on there talking about psilocybin, therapeutics that are psychedelic in nature.
Right.
And how they've impacted, either UFC fighters or former NFL players. Do you have any? I'm not super knowledgeable about it, but I'm curious. Do you have a take on? Are there some pathways that may be leading to some healing for people coming down the pipeline? Or
Yeah, I mean, the psychedelics is really interesting. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of layers of discussion around that. I think that one of the things I do support is, finding what works. I think that there are emotional and behavioral issues that come out of repeated traumatic brain injuries. And I also think that there are physiological issues that come out of that. So how much are the psychedelics helping on the physiological side? And how much of the physiological changes in the brain are causing the emotional and behavioral issues that players face? And in my case, what we found was that, over time, my behavioral changes, the inability to apply patience, which had an impact on temper and the way in which I would react to things, because my executive functioning wasn't working.
Yeah.
And so I would just, lose my patience very quickly. And I didn't have the ability to remain calm in certain situations. And so I would behave in a manner that was contrary to who I was as a man.
Yeah.
So when I started doing my brain training, which focuses on changing the physiology of the brain, healing injured neural pathways, creating new neural pathways that information travels on.
Yep.
And as my executive functioning and my memory started to improve over 3 months of intensive brain training, I found that my emotional capacity for behaviors that were affected started to also improve.
Yeah.
And my wife would say she got her husband back, and that but you do have to find what works.
Yeah.
You've
mentioned brain training a couple of times, and I'm curious. I don't know a lot about that world, but when you say it, I think either active, kind of almost mental exercises that you're doing, or I'm somewhat familiar with some more passive treatments like EMDR or neurofeedback, things like that.
Yeah.
Which of those, or both?
I mean, again, neurofeedback. Those are the types of things that I would say. It can't hurt you.
Yeah.
So try it and see if it's something that helps you in your current situation. The brain training, I got involved with a franchise called Learning RX, and their entire platform is to work you out cognitively.
Mentally, yeah.
And they use all the exercises come out of neuropsychology, and you sit down across the table from a brain trainer for an 1.5-hour session, and they kick your butt.
Mm.
And and that's where I found my greatest success.
Man.
I know that you're 99% all natural, but do you take any supplements
99
to maintain that physique?
99%. What's
some of it is just.
I'm asking for that 1% supplement.
Divine genetics.
Are you like a
Little
turmeric
creatine,
guy or
little creatine.
Are you a 5-10 milligram guy? What are we doing?
Here or there. I don't know. Whatever the scoop
dry
is.
scoop?
Yeah.
Do you just dry scoop?
You just dry scoop it in there.
Right in your mouth, yeah.
And
yeah, but do you take anything for your brain? Blueberries or?
Do
you think about it?
Obviously, nutrition is a big part of that.
Yeah.
And wanting to have the right types of oils.
Are you an essential oil
there
guy?
are some supplemental. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are some supplements coming out that are trying to tap into, some of the chemicals and
magic
and
mind
hormones.
Yeah.
That
lion's mane.
that really can. The thing you have to understand, though,
But you don't
is
buy
that
into
the
that
brain.
whole-
But the brain is covered by a blood barrier, so the body is the miracle of our creation is designed to protect the most important organ of the human being, which is the brain, right? And so all of the blood that carries every supplement you put in your body gets filtered throughout your body instantly, but not the brain. Like there's a blood-brain barrier, and so when it gets to your brain, we have a system that says, you're not getting through. Like we have to make sure that everything in here
stays
protected. Right, but there are some really cool things that are happening. I know that there's a lot of research around stem cell therapy and finding ways to kind of find a detour around the blood-brain barrier. So what would happen if you could get stem cell therapy directly into the brain, which are the healing agents of the body. So there's some cool things that are coming out.
It's fascinating,
dude.
Are you ready for this?
Let's go.
Let's do it.
Lightning.
All right, pick your punishment: the blizzard of the mini, or the humidity of the South.
Blizzard.
Wow, I agree.
Because you can do something. Like
you can ice fish.
You can you can snowmobile.
Yeah.
You can ski. You can skate.
You can't water ski.
Well,
no, but you can
Can't
breathe.
go swimming.
Snow is
but you can breathe.
frozen water, so you're kind of skiing on
Best
frozen
city,
water.
best city for live music.
Nashville.
Okay, thank you.
Amen.
Who's more passive aggressive, Minnesotans or Southerners?
Minnesotans.
Really? Are more passive aggressive?
Yeah. Yeah, the Norwegian culture. I mean,
surprises
that's
me.
Yeah. We're called Minnesota nice, but it's it's a wave and a smile, different than Southern hospitality.
Who is the more iconic local artist, Prince or Dolly Parton?
I'm torn on this one, by the way.
Prince.
Ooh,
Prince.
yeah.
It's hard to disagree with.
I mean, yeah.
I just feel like globally, Prince is going to have a larger fan base.
I agree with that.
I don't disagree.
More iconic with that. Which city has friendlier strangers? As you're walking down the sidewalk. Nashville?
Yeah.
What is the more tempting treat, a Nashville biscuit or a Minneapolis donut from Glamdoll? He thought it was funny. A donut or a biscuit? Donut up in the...
I would say, well, you said the word treat, so I would say donut,
Yeah.
which has more of a dessert connotation.
Man, more tempting.
Can I get in on these last few?
Yeah, you love this.
So it's not just you the whole time.
Yeah, go, dude. You got it.
Where does your accent come out more?
Where does it come out more?
Yeah.
I mean, in the north. Is that what you mean? Like where? What region?
Yeah, I was a little confused by that one too, because it could be a southern accent.
Yeah, I think he adopts a southern accent.
Yeah.
You keep sitting here talking
where
to
it
him.
comes out to, obviously, where it comes out to others is the further
south.
the
further south you
I
go.
mean, people just know right away.
You mentioned Minnesota nice, and I'm sure you're aware, having lived here we also have Southern hospitality. Which one are you picking?
Southern hospitality.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen, brother.
Because it comes with food?
It comes with some of the best food ever.
Really?
Yeah.
You pick the food down here over
cheese
curds?
I think,
little poutine.
I think that it's almost like in Southern hospitality, there's a service attached.
Oh, yeah.
To the hospitality.
Got to feed you, put a drink in your hand, something.
Yeah, got to feed you, got to help you.
Yeah.
Minnesota Nice is real. And people are very friendly and kind, but there's a service attached to the Southern hospitality that's special.
That's good.
Is one of the places, Nashville or Minneapolis, is one of them easier to raise a family in?
Ooh. I would say
hot take.
It depends on
Give us a hot take.
I'd say it depends on where you
I was going to ask
where you
for
stand
a hot take.
politically. I would probably say
well,
okay,
we're not
yeah,
asking where people stand.
Yeah,
just
I would
raising
say
a family.
We're asking where you.
For me, raising a family, I think that being more in the Bible Belt kind of culture of faith and chivalry.
Yeah.
If
Was that a Nashville?
That would be that would be a Nashville culture. We have some of the best schools in the country. We're like 10% state income tax, right? So a lot of money goes into
No, schools are incredible.
our infrastructure.
Really? The schools that his girls go to look like colleges.
Our infrastructure is, so when it comes to growing up in an atmosphere with strong education,
and the facilities,
and there are great. I mean, there's a great faith communities in Minnesota too. It's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough.
He wants to keep that one a little to himself. I can tell. We're going to let that one go. I do want one hot take.
Oh, yeah. And then we're going to mail back.
All it has to be, the only thing that it has to deal with is Peyton Manning. A hot take on Peyton Manning.
A hot take.
A sizzling hot take. It could be about how funny he looks. It could be about how he talks. It could be about his golf game. A sizzling hot take on Peyton Manning.
He wears a lot of orange.
Peyton, what you see, in his television productions is exactly
goofball, funny guy, clever,
guy.
Yeah.
Just this, intense balance between, doing whatever it takes to be the best and enjoying life. Work hard, play hard mentality, and his audible system was arguably the most intricate system in the NFL, and so the hot take on that is like he would love to have fun. When the tight ends would run a dig route, which is kind of one of our primary routes, 15 yards straight up the field, 90-degree angle across the middle of the field. The three hand signals that he would use for the dig route was he would either dig in his nose, dig in the front of his pants, or dig in the back of his pants. And so you'd be at the line of scrimmage, and he'd be making his calls, and you'd look back at him to see what he wanted. He'd kind of give you a smile and dig in the back of his pants. So he's always work hard, play hard, and he's had an incredible career because of it.
One of the finest sons of Tennessee. I don't know if you know that, Winston.
I do.
Yeah,
I do.
He played at the University of Tennessee.
Lots of orange. Yep. Still very faithful supporter.
Lots of orange. Yes.
Hey, grab that mailbag.
Okay.
Which is actually our old shotgun show purse satchel thing. Yeah.
Look at that.
And dig you one out of there.
Oh, what do you mean? There's something in there?
We ask the listeners every once in a while to send in.
This is like our listener question bag.
Just questions.
Okay.
We just happen to keep them in that old bag that a friend gave us.
I like it.
I hope it's a good one.
Yeah, I know. We need something spicy.
Come on.
Oh, interesting.
Oh,
yeah. I love that.
Oh, I know. I know.
Winston, what is your least favorite thing about your wife?
That's not true. That's not
the question.
Lord. I was like,
the condition
That's
of
not
her
the question.
toothpaste bottle.
oh.
Whoa. Okay.
Dude.
All right, Jake.
It looks like a murder scene.
What's your favorite part about being a dad?
Oh, man.
It's good. Good recentering question.
The condition of your kids' toothpaste bottles.
Just if they brush their teeth. Favorite thing about being a dad right now. How old are yours?
16, identical twins, born in Franklin.
Amen.
14 and 9.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm having a lot of fun because mine are 10, 8, and 6 this year.
Mm-hmm.
And we're starting to go around the table, you know, on a birthday or something and ask them, like, what's your favorite thing about mom? What's your favorite thing? Whoever's having the birthday. And they can really, they are still unfiltered.
Yep.
But they're kind of like
intelligent,
extremely intuitive.
Yeah.
So they just speak the truth about, if you're really wondering what they think about you.
Yeah.
And what they like more of, or what do I do that you don't like, that you want less of? It's incredible the way that they see the world.
Yeah,
and coming out of the baby phase, you're just like, I don't give them that amount of like dignity.
Yeah.
But man, they know.
Oh, for sure.
And that's been fun to watch them just become little humans.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think for me, I love. We have a widespread. Our oldest will be 20 in a couple months. Our youngest just turned 9, and then we have 2 in between. They're 17 and almost 15. And the wildest thing to me is knowing that each of those 4 kids, as dramatically different as they are, one of them is a great singer. One of them cannot carry a tune. One of them is so mentally skilled with like small engines and can fix anything. And I mean, they're all so incredibly different, but they each somehow God worked each of them out using the DNA from the 2 same people. Mm-hmm. And that is crazy to me.
Yeah.
Just to sit and go, they are all their completely unique individual humans with different strengths and different weaknesses, but somehow they share the same DNA.
Yeah.
And that is, it's a miracle to me.
I love it.
It is a miracle to me.
It's good.
Yeah. I love being a dad.
It's good.
I love it.
Should you sing Ave Maria real quick?
False.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
No.
Please.
Stage flag.
No singing. But no singing.
Okay. What's that other song that we really like that you sing too?
I don't know.
From the 80s?
Hallelujah.
Oh, that's a good one.
I do sing that one.
Oh, yeah. All right. Hey, thanks for being here.
This was
Thanks,
a
guys.
lot of fun.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was great.
Appreciate it.
Good conversation.
Well done. We'll get you singing next time.
If somebody wants to learn more about Ben and like what he's got going on,
Where can we find Ben?
find the books, all that good stuff, where do they go?
Ben Utecht speaks.com is going to be kind of the primary site to go check out.
We'll link it in
what
the
I'm
show
doing,
notes.
what I'm doing on that, and you can find the book on there too at obviously Amazon, Barnes and Noble, for that. So
I love it. If you're watching right now, or if you're listening, hit subscribe. We never do this.
No.
Hit subscribe. It helps us.
Hit a like.
Hit a thumbs up.
Share
Give
it
us a
around.
like. Share it. Send it to a buddy.
Go see Ben.
All that good stuff. Check out Ben's stuff.
All right. Thanks for being here.
Awesome,
Keep coming
guys.
back, y'all.
Hey, thanks for watching, guys. Be sure to check out the other videos on our channel and make sure you like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss future videos.
And if you're tired of seeing our faces talk, you can go the audio only route and catch us on Apple and Spotify. If you do that, be sure to subscribe, give us a rating and a review so that we can reach more people.
See y'all next week.